Joining us now is Sean Davis, who is terrific, and he had a tweet that went very viral yesterday, CEO and co-founder of The Federalist. Sean, tell us about your Michigan observation and what started as seemingly gloomy news actually is rather a motivating factor, showing that we can win Michigan. Sean, please explain.
Yeah, so yesterday, a left-wing account in Michigan that allegedly specializes in vote stats put out a bunch of data from Michigan focused on specific counties and cities, looking at how many absentee ballots had been requested so far and how many had been returned. And the number that caught my eye initially was a number in Detroit out of Wayne County that said of, I think, 103,000 absentee ballots that had been requested, already 40% had been turned in, and we're still 3 weeks out from the election. So I found that number kind of alarming. So I gave it to our elections team over at the Federalist, our election integrity team, which is spectacular. And they looked into it, they ran it to the ground. And what they found was Democrats are way behind in these places. Okay. Yeah, Democrats are actually way
Sean,
behind.
For a reason, glitch. Keep going.
Yeah, so what we found was in Detroit and in Michigan, Democrats are actually a lot more behind than they were in 2020. I think at this point in 2020, they had requested 400,000 ballots in Wayne County. Within 2 weeks, they had 70% returned. Right now, it looks like on just requests, they're down 70, 80% compared to where they were. So maybe the yield is up a little bit, but the fact that those numbers are down so much in total numbers compared to 2020, the people on the ground we talked to were very cautiously optimistic, cautiously bullish, which I take as a good sign.
Yeah, so let's kind of take a step back here, Sean. What does your election integrity team say about not just early vote requests and returns, because those are very deceiving. We're still only a week into this, so a lot of people still haven't gotten their ballots. Next week, we'll have a lot of clarity. But what are they saying about the ballot security measures? Have there been meaningful and impactful changes, whether in the courts or in legislation, to make this a more secure election in the states that matter?
Oh, I think it's definitely more secure compared to 2020. Is it where we would like it to be, ideally? Of course not, because unfortunately, we don't control all the state legislatures. We don't control all the governorships. But compared to 2020, I think we have made huge progress. The problem that happened in 2020 is in dozens of states, they changed the rules in the middle of the election. Courts refused to take an honest look at whether the rule changes were legal or constitutional. And it just created a total chaotic scenario where Democrats were effectively able to control the entire process. That's not the lay of the land that we have this year. So it's not perfect, but I think in state after state after state, we've seen significant improvements in election security and integrity measures.
So, yeah, and let's just keep on focusing on Michigan here. They are down, but also the widespread turnout will be down. So we need to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. They might be down, but turnout generally might be down. This should be a shot in the arm to drive turnout and to get our side to say, hey, we can win, but we need to work our tail off. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. People don't need to be blackpilling. They don't need to be doomers. We've got 3 weeks, and we're effectively, we've just finished the second quarter. We have a whole half left to go. You don't walk out on the football field and kick yourself and say, oh, man, this thing's over. And you certainly don't walk out there and say, this thing's done. We can just mail it in for the next 2 quarters. You go out there and you work your butt off. You do every play to the best of your ability. And the people that we've talked to on the ground that are doing ballot chase they've seen since July doing ballot chase and doing door to door, they seem pretty optimistic. And so the time now, it's not the time for being super rah-rah, we've got it in the bag, or saying, oh, we don't have a chance. The time now is to work your butts off, work as hard as you can, and get to the finish line.
So just repeat this for the sake of memory, though, which is that Democrats had a 70% advantage in Detroit 2 weeks out in 2020. They're only at 40% now with 4 weeks to go. overall numbers are down huge. Can you just repeat that for the sake of memory?
Yeah. So what we were told by our folks on the ground is that with 2 weeks left to go in the election, and we're 3 weeks out now, Democrats in Detroit had 70% of their absentee ballot requests turned in. Right now, we're 3 weeks out. They're at 40%. In 2020, they requested 400 to 500,000 absentee ballots out of Detroit. This election, they've requested, I believe, 100. 2020 to me was such an odd year. I actually am in benchmarking compared to 2016. I think it's a lot more analogous. And across the board, Kamala Harris is doing worse than Hillary Clinton was across the board in every battleground state in national numbers. And I think that's, if we're looking at polls, if we're looking at macroeconomic signs and just big macro election signs, to me, 2016 is the comparison. And this feels like 2016 to me, with the vibe, with the energy, with the people wanting change, with the failure in government. It feels to me like we're looking at 2016, not 2020.
Yeah, and understand over 400,000 in 2020 requested, only 103 requested in 2024. Just the raw material is not there to be able to do it.